American citizens of Japanese ancestry were assaulted on the sidewalk, yelled at, spat at, and attacked simply because we looked like this. Pearl Harbor. We looked like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor. That was the only reason. But the crazy thing is we had absolutely nothing to do with Pearl Harbor. And yet, this country went crazy. And the government got swept up in that too. They came down with a curfew. We had to be home by a certain time, by 8 o'clock, and stay home until 6 in the morning. I didn't care as a child because we were in bed anyway. My mother put us to bed. But people young people that wanted to go out could not go out. They were arrested if they were out on the street. And the next day, my parents went to the bank to make a deposit or a withdrawal, and they discovered that our bank account was frozen, that it was closed. The government took our money. So my father's business was destroyed. We had a mortgage. He couldn't make the mortgage payment, and so we didn't make the payment because they said we're going to be taken away. And the bank didn't bother us until the soldiers came in. And I remember that morning. It was a terrifying morning. My father came into the bedroom I shared with my brother. He dressed hysterically, and he told us to play in the living room, and there's nothing to do. So my brother and I was standing by the front window, just gazing out at the neighborhood. And suddenly, we saw two soldiers marching up our driveway. They carried rifles with shiny bayonets on them. They stomped at the porch, and right up, the steps were right in front of our window, and they started banging on the front door with their fists. My father came out, answered the door, and they pointed the bayonet at my father. Henry and I were petrified. And the soldier said, "Get your family out of this house." My father handed my brother and me boxes that they had prepared and tied in twine, so we carried them. And we followed my father. He carried two heavy suitcases out and stood on the driveway waiting for our mother to be to come out. And when she came out escorted by one of the soldiers, she had our baby sister in one arm and a huge heavy duffel bag in the other, and tears were streaming down her cheeks. I was 5 years old at the time. I will never forget that. And because we were in prison for 4 years, 4.5 years after that, in 3 different camps, we were first taken to San Anita Racetrack, where our family was assigned a horse stall, still pungent with the stink of fresh horse manure, insects skittering around on the ground, flies buzzing, spiders coming down. My baby sister promptly got sick, and a few days after that, I got sick too. But that was temporary. The camps had been built. And after about 4 months, they told us that we would be moving again. And we discovered they didn't tell us where we were going. We were put on the train, and they had soldiers at both ends of each car, like we were criminals. And it was a journey of 3 days and 2 nights. But most of the journey was through dry, dusty desert of the Southwest, from Los Angeles through Arizona, New Mexico. Texas was forever and a day. And then by the 3rd morning, the landscape changed. There were, we started to see plant life, and then we saw pools of black water with huge trees rising out of that water. The roots of the tree went in and out of the water. It was a fascinating, magical place that we were going to. You know, Henry and I were Southern Californian kids. We'd never seen anything like that. And then the soldiers started rolling up and down the aisle. To me, they sounded like lions that were going roar, roar, roar. I thought they were trying to scare us by roaring. Actually, they were announcing that we were approaching our camp. The camp is called Camp Rohr, R-O-H-W-E-R. And the way they pronounced it, it sounded like roar, roar, roar. And then the train started to slow down, and then we started seeing barbed wire fences. And then we saw hordes of masses of Japanese people just standing there looking up at the train. We had arrived at the camp. My father, when we left San Diego racetrack, we asked him where we were going. He said, he thought for a while, and he told us, we're going for a long journey for a vacation in the country. Barbed wire fences. I didn't think that would be our vacation spot, but that's what it turned out to be. And that was to be our home, Camp Rohr, behind barbed wire fences. And I began school for the first time in one of the black tar paper. There were rows and rows and rows of black tar paper barracks, and we were assigned a unit in one of those tar paper barracks. And I began school in a tar paper barrack. And on the very first day, the teacher came in and said, I'm going to teach you the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And she pointed to the flag at the front of the classroom. And she said, you will memorize that, and we will begin every day with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. So I remember every morning saying, with liberty and justice for all. When I can look out the classroom window and see barbed wire fence, sentry towers, soldiers laying up and down from the sentry towers. That was, and the camp was in the swamps of southeastern Arkansas. And there, the people there are all either depressed or seething with contained anger, or just, forlorn. And my father spoke both Japanese and English fluently, and so he was elected the block manager. And he sensed that we needed to develop a community in our block. The camp was divided into blocks, and each block had a block manager to represent the people of those blocks, and meet with the camp command and come down with the orders that they came down with, which my father announced at the mess hall after the meals. And my father felt that we needed to develop a sense of community, and so he built a baseball diamond. My father used to play baseball in San Francisco, and so that brought a sense of community. We went to root for my father. Usually, but back in his days, when he was with a baseball team that played other Japanese American teams in the Bay Area. He was in San Francisco. He played with the Palo Alto Japanese American baseball team, San Jose, Oakland, Berkeley, so forth. And so we all went to cheer for our father whenever he pitched, or others came to cheer for their brother or their cousins. And that started to build a sense of community. But I'm going off. Your original question was,
oh, it was 15 minutes ago, I don't remember. It was who was your hero when you were 10 years old? The answer is your dad. All right, so you are a practicing Buddhist. What kind of peace does your faith bring you?
It's going to be difficult to explain Buddhism.
First of all, you don't have to explain Buddhism. I just want to know what it brings you. Does it give you a sense of calm? Does it give you a sense of what the future holds?
Well, it's an understanding. Most of you believe in a God who created everything, and he's the benign force. Buddhism is a pantheistic philosophy. It's not, a religion with a God. It's a philosophy of life, and it sees us as part of the larger whole. I remember in Sunday school, this was after the war, we were released, and our family is my parents were in a mixed marriage. They were both from Buddhist families, but Buddhism has sects. My father came from a Zen family, and my mother was a Shin family. Because it was right after the war, we were dependent on volunteer transportation. And my mother's family side, the Shin Buddhists, provided volunteer car service to Sunday school. And so we went to the Shin Buddhist temple. There's a Zen Buddhist temple, but I don't think they had volunteers from our neighborhood. And so we went to the Shin temple. And to kind of put in the capsule, the Buddhist philosophy, I remember in Sunday school, the teacher said that imagine a vast ocean, and there are many forces that play on the ocean. The wind, the current, the heat, or the cold, and the tide, and that produces a wave. And at one point, little whitecaps form at the tip of the wave. And we are that whitecap saying, I am an individual. I have an ego. I am intelligent. But that whitecap lasts only for a brief moment. And then the same forces that created that whitecap starts to go back into the larger whole of the ocean. And we become a part of the water, or maybe a fish goats us, and another part is becoming the fish, or a part of the corals, and so forth. That's what our existence is like. It's a brief moment in time, and we're made up of all of what makes us, these atoms and molecules, and it becomes part of a larger whole. So once you pass, and you're buried in the ground, a tree root might suck a part of you up, and you become part of that tree, and a part of a leaf, and the leaf might blow away and be swept up and go into the trash, or it might be eaten by a bird, and a bird makes its dropping, and we're part of that. And so we're part of this vast system of forces, and we're part of that. And you and me are certainly a different person from the one that I met decades ago, when Star Trek first started, and we met at a Star Trek convention.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you had a lot of
hair.
I was going to say particles. And you've lost that part.
They've gone in the Buddhist ecosystem.
Their hair particles have all now become part of the larger world.
Something's gone.
And so on. And so that's my Sunday, what is it? Thursday afternoon Sunday school lecture.
There you go. I've got a photo. Can we get that photo up? If you can. I think you should be able to see it over here if we can get it. There's a monitor in front of you, George. So that photo. So I was a college kid at SUNY Albany, and I asked George if he would do an interview with me for my college newspaper, Albany Student Press, the Asp. And he said, "Sure, do you jog?" I said, "Yes." Total lie. Look at me, I don't jog. And if dead, I don't now. But he said, "You have to meet me outside the hotel. We'll run. We'll come back in, and we'll do an interview." So that's exactly what we did. A year and a half, 4 or 5 years later, I brought George into New York for an event. We were lighting the Citicorp building in Manhattan as the world's largest illuminated American flag. If you look in the Guinness Book of World Records from 1988, it's in there. And I said to George, "Would you do this for me?" He said, "I will do it for free. You don't need to pay me. Just get me a hotel room. But can you bring my friend Brad with me?" And I said, "Of course." And you were doing us a favor. I'm not going to say no, right? So we got first class tickets. We got the limousine for George and Brad. And Brad was your friend at the time. How have things evolved for the LGBTQ plus community? See where I brought this? Full circle, right? Because back then, he couldn't say, "Hey, I'm bringing my boyfriend, can we go?" Now, you would think twice about saying that sentence. So, how far have we come, and how far do we still have to go?
We've come a long ways from then, haven't we? Yeah, we've come a long ways, baby. Brad was my friend for a long, long time. And as a matter of fact, he's still my friend after 37 years. He's been my very legal friend. We got married in 2008 when in California we finally got married. But back then when we knew, we met for the first time, Brad, we were good friends. I met Brad for the first time. I was a member of a running club, a gay running club in Los Angeles. And we met in different places in Los Angeles, at a reservoir or by the beach or at Griffith Park. And we all ran together on weekends. The members were all from different backgrounds. Some were in the professions, others were, well, Brad was a journalist at that, but he wasn't a member when I was a member of the running club, a gay running club. And actually, I was in a relationship with the president of our running club, a lawyer, and at each one of the runs, he would introduce the new member. And when I first joined, I was very skittish about that. That was the first gay organization that I became a part of because I loved running. From my high school days. In high school, I was on the track team in the summer season, and in the winter season, I was on the cross-country team that ran up through the Hollywood Hills. And so running was my passion. And because it was such a strong part of me, I said, you know, I've been closeted and very discreet about my gay life, but I'm going to take a chance joining an organization. And when I joined, Darryl was the name of the president. He asked, he came up to me and said, "Oh, what's your name?" We have a tradition of introducing new members to everybody. And I said, "Well, I'm going incognito, so you don't have to introduce me." And he said, "You don't have to be so coy. They all recognize you." People were whispering, and I heard "Suits," you know, the similar sound. And they all recognize you. So tell me your name. And so I told them, I'm George. I didn't give them my last name. And so I was introduced as George. And so, and we all became friends. And they were all positive too, so there was no big thing about being closeted. And they understood, especially for me being a publicly visible career, they respected that. And then one day, we gathered at Silver Lake Reservoir, and there was a new guy that was going to join us, and the same president got his name, and he introduced this new runner. I noticed him immediately, slim, tight-muscled, and gorgeous. And he really was a good runner. He was a front runner. The name of the club was Front Runners Los Angeles. And I thought I'd start a conversation with him while jogging, which is what we always do. But the line becomes a very long line. The real good runners are way up front, and I was middle. And some of the Star Trek fans who recognized me tried to run with me, but they couldn't keep up with me, so they fell back, and they were in the tail end of our line. And I thought I'd run with this great, gorgeous new member, and I just could not keep up. He kept going faster and faster, and he turned out to be literally the front runner. He was at the very front, and when the run ended, I was huffing and puffing, and he was already strolling about, and I started a conversation with him, and I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I'm a journalist." And I said, "Oh, and what kind of journalism?" Well, he said, I am a trade publication journalist, and I have to travel to visit all these home care businesses throughout the country. I just got in from Alaska." And he said, "Oh," I said, "I've been to Alaska." Actually, I've been there something like about a half a year before then, for what else? A Star Trek convention in Fairbanks. And because it was Alaska, it's such a fascinating place, I took my 7-year-old nephew, and he really enjoyed that because we extended it after the convention, and we went fishing, and we went on a tour through the Muskeg area, and Scotty said to everybody back home, "Uncle George took me on the best trip ever in my whole life." his whole life was 7 years. And so I mentioned that to Brad, and he said, oh yeah, I was in Alaska last week at Fairbanks. And that's where our conversation began.
And it's never ended.
Well, at that time I was on the board of the Los Angeles Theater Center, and one of the things I like to do is organize theater parties from other groups for the theater to support them. And I announced that the announcement of the meeting is I'm organizing a theater party for all my sons, Arthur Miller's play, and all those that want to go, let me know, and I'll take your name and make appropriate reservations. Well, Brad came to me and said, I'll be happy to volunteer to help you. And I said, oh, well, thank you very much. And it turned out he was very organized. Before not too long, he had a spreadsheet, and he had all the people that wanted to go listed, and who had paid and who hadn't paid yet, and how many in each group. And I was impressed by his volunteerism and his organization, and things grew from there. And
Here we are.
here we are.
Guys, because George is giving such short answers to my I'm going to open this up right now to the questions, and I'm just going to throw away the rest of my pile of questions. Let's go to my
I
mic.
know what you have there.
You will take one. No. Go ahead.
George, during the 1960s, you were playing a balloon.
Oh, hi.
You were in the 1960s. You were playing a beloved character, the one that we all know and love, and you had to take an extended break from playing that character while the material for the character went to others to work with John Wayne for a while. Now, we don't get do-overs in life, but if you had a do-over, would you have wanted to, play all the material that you missed, all the shows or the material you missed, and be with that character? Or are you satisfied just having missed time with that character and working with John Wayne?
My real druthers is I would like to have had both, because I'm a political activist, and I lobby for a lot of issues or candidates, but I also am a lobbyist for my career, and I noticed in the first season that Leonard was always coming up with ideas during rehearsals, and that fattened up his part. Like the spot pinch was Leonard's invention, or the Vulcan Green was Leonard. The script had him offering a hand to an alien delegation, and he said, that's illogical. We don't know anything about these aliens, and they don't know about us, and it's a very aggressive movement to offer a hand. So we should have something a bit more neutral and respectful. And she said, in the Jewish faith, we have this gesture in our ceremonies. And what do you think about this? And the director loved it. It was respectful, empty palm, and a very welcoming sign. And so I saw how Leonard was lobbying and coming up with ideas, and so I started doing that too, to beef up my part, suggesting that Sulu had a family, or that Sulu was reputed to be the #1 graduate from Starfleet Academy, and so that should be reflected in some of his activities. And he said, what was the question?
Would you work with John Wayne if you had to do it again, or do you be on Star because you had more to do?
Oh, well, as a result of my lobbying, Gene had, he said, we have two leads that we've got to develop, and there's some tension there, so we've got to focus on him. But yes, I'm thinking of the whole cast, and your role will be developed. And when I went off to do Green Berets on location, during the hiatus, it was a legitimate hiatus. The first season of filming had come to an end, and he said, "I have a gift for you." Gene Roddenberry said, "I have a gift for you," and he handed me 5 scripts, and they did have interesting things for Sue to do. And so, with that, I went on. But the shoot was very, very troubled. We were a little delayed, and then we had rain that went on forever and a day. And so we had started shooting when it wasn't raining, and when it rained and it seemed like it was going to continue, we switched to rain, and we started filming in the rain. And of course, wouldn't you know, the rain stopped. But we had more scenes, and we had established the rain, so we had to muddy down the set, and the actors had to submit to a dousing by buckets of water before we began the scene. And so we were very delayed, and I couldn't be back. I was scheduled to be back for the beginning of the second season, and I couldn't be back for it, and I got delayed, and that's when Walter was brought in with the character Chekhov, and he got all the lines that were written for me, for Sue. And so I came back, silent scene, actor unseen. I was seething at the actor who got my lines. But if you read To the Stars, you know how I first met Walter, and we eventually became friends. I have a tendency to ramble.
All good. Let's go. Do you want me to cut you off if you go too long? I don't want to. That's right. That's right. I'm just going to let you roll, my friend. I don't know. Did he answer your question? Sort of. To my left. That was yours.
Hello, George.